Good morning, folks. Welcome to Half and Half this morning. It is a gloomy, rainy day here in Blue Mounds. Um, what do they say? In like a lion, out like a lamb, or April showers? I don't know. We're somewhere at the end of March where all those things are intersecting. Um, yeah, Scott and I, last week we did some work on rib cage, thoracic extension, maybe getting the breath moving a little bit. I feel like we've been building. We talked about organs, we talked about breath, we talked about thoracic extension. And then today we thought we'd talk about some jaw and neck tension. So, this whole sort of upper girdle, maybe we'll start to get that a little more organized for everybody. Um, that can be a little tricky in Pilates, right? If you've done Pilates, if you've done the 100 and some of these exercises, it can be really hard not to have like a lot of neck and jaw tension. So it's a big task that we need to start. But I think one of the nice things is starting with just getting some awareness in those spaces in that. So, you have this muscle from your the top of your skull down to your mandible, down to your jaw, the masseter muscle. You can maybe even feel that. It's kind of back. If you like do this, you'll feel it come on or let it go. Okay, you can feel that muscle back there. It's kind of a square muscle. It connects the upper and the lower jaw. Just, you don't have to be like too aggressive about it, but just find it, maybe rub on it a little bit. Whatever feels good. You can kind of feel towards the front of the ear, a little more towards the cheek where there is less muscle. And then maybe trace around the bottom of the jaw, your rugged jawline, as it were. Mine's not super rugged. And then even like along the cheek, there's a lot of nerves in the face. So even though you might think like, oh, it's not really any muscle here, there is a lot of nerves, and um, it can be really nice to get some of that to start to soften, some of that experience along the cheeks to start to soften. And then another place I would go into, I like to go into, would be behind the ears. If you just sort of trace behind your ears, you can feel the bony ridge that goes kind of from your jaw. There's a little dip, and then you start to feel bony ridge again behind the ears, which is a nice place to open up as well. And softening and relaxing some of that space, it just feels like it calms the whole nervous system, right? Like getting some of these facial nerves to soften lets the whole nervous system start to settle. And then from behind the ears, I could go back to the place where the skull and the spine connect, the very top of the cervical spine and the very base of the skull. And there's that little divot in there. And then if I trace that around, like drew a line to my jaw, right? I could think of a whole circle from my chin back along the jaw and back to that spot. And so those muscles along the back of the body, at the very top of the neck, the base of the skull, again, just kind of a soft, like awareness touch, not super hard touch. Maybe a little bit of pressure feels good, but also kind of a medium pressure allows it to be a little more diffuse, which is useful. And so then I kind of have all three of those spots, like behind the ears, back of the skull, top of the neck, around the jaw, around the masseter muscle, and kind of around the jaw line. And then maybe even just a little bit of brushing along the front of the neck. And then we could continue that. There's this big muscle called the platysma muscle. It's a very thin muscle, but it kind of goes over all your neck muscles, and it goes all the way on to your upper ribs and collarbone area, right? So I could just sort of feel all of that drop down and relax through my chest. And if that, all those muscles could get a little longer, a little softer, a little more settled, then there's this possibility that my head can float back into place over my shoulders. My head gets very pulled forward, as do many people's heads, not just mine. And so as this softens and lengthens, then maybe just a little sense of the back of the skull opening and the head floating backwards a little bit. And then your jaw just like relax. Feeling what that's like. So there's this Feldenkrais, this thing, and it's not necessarily an exercise, but Moshe Feldenkrais talks about letting your tongue really relax. He's not the only one. I'm just pulling from that. Like letting the tongue really relax, keeping your lips together, but parting your teeth. So your lips stay together. You drop your tongue. It's so hard to talk and do this. You drop your tongue and you let your teeth part. And just see how much you can let go in doing that. And I think you can feel all those things I was talking about, like the cheeks feel like they get a little longer. The masseter muscle feels like it releases. You might even feel it into the back of your throat relaxing. And then with that feeling, keeping the tongue heavy and letting the teeth come back together, but not like pulling them together, right? Just a very gentle teeth touch. It's still really easy through all this. It's kind of a little bit of a meditation, I think, that I play with sometimes. It feels kind of nice, like everything lets go, but just that little bit of lips together feeling. And then how much work do you really need to hold your jaw together? Maybe not so much. So we have all that. Let's go on to your back. And then find that all those feelings while you're lying on your back. Do you want your teeth to touch? Do you want them to be slightly parted? Can your tongue be relaxed? And let's play with breathing just in and out through the nose, keeping the lips together the whole time. Now, if your nose is kind of sinusy and that doesn't really work, breathe through your mouth, exhale through your mouth if you need to, but just play with that real easy sort of relaxed feeling in the jaw as you do it. But if you can do in and out through your nose, see what it's like to hold the lips together. Maybe teeth together, maybe not, but being aware of that. Tongue relaxed. And then all the other stuff, back of the neck relaxed, behind the ears relaxed, front of the neck relaxed, down into your chest. What's your breath like? And then for me, I notice all that release starts to travel down through my torso as well. My upper back feels like it gets a little wider. My shoulders feel a little more relaxed. I get this little more weight in my pelvis. It's like all the energy from my face and my eyes, it's like it just kind of drips down. And like this wave, maybe like the curtain is dropping down slowly from my face down and grounding me into my feet. So let's spend a few more minutes here, a couple more minutes here, just letting everything settle. Like in water, all the sand gets stirred up, And then it just settles all the way back down to the floor of the ocean again. And then let's start some knee folds. Inhaling, a leg floats up. Exhale, it floats back down. And can you keep the image you were just working with? You add on really simple knee fold. Other leg comes up, inhale, exhale it down. Alternating that. And then finish up your set and leave both feet on the floor for a couple breaths. And then let's take your hands behind your head. Now, this is a little tricky, right? So, as your hands come behind your head, you might get tense in some of the places we just released. So, take a moment, elbows a little lifted, kind of out and open towards the diagonal, but definitely up, pretty far up off the floor. And then take a moment, let your head settle into your hands. Notice all the imagery of releasing the neck and jaw, maybe even your forehead, maybe your pelvis. Notice your breath again, either in and out through the nose or in through the nose and out through the mouth in a really soft, relaxed mouth as you exhale. And then keeping that awareness as your head comes up, exhaling. Stay for a full breath cycle. And inhale back down. And working with that pattern a few times. Breath in, exhale. Hands really hold the weight of the head. Back of the neck staying really relaxed, jaw staying relaxed. How does all the sand settle down into your pelvis, into your feet? The inhale takes you back down. Try a couple more on your own. And then once you come down this time, settling again on the floor. A couple breaths. So I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel like a little more flatter into the floor. Sometimes when I'm really tired and I've had a long day, I get on the couch and I just like kind of Subtle, and Scott accuses me of becoming very flat. He'll be like, "You're just so flat right now. You've just completely gone into a pool." I'm getting a little bit of that feeling right now. I don't know about you, but that's okay. It's nice. Just let yourself be a little flat on the ground. Take your left leg straight. Hold on to the back of your right thigh. And then same thing, what happens? So reaching the arms forward, holding the leg, especially if your hamstring is tight, it might pull your neck a little tighter. It might pull your back a little tighter. So maybe that happens. It's okay. Once you become aware of that, what could you let go of? What what adjustment might you make that creates a little more length without, forcing things? And then just the imagery. Easy jaw, easy tongue, easy cheeks, easy behind the ears, breathing in and out through the nose as you inhale the leg up and exhale it back down. Follow your breath a couple times. Now, probably you've noticed too, as your leg gets straighter, things want to get tighter. That's pretty natural. So you don't have to be totally static, right? Like maybe there's a little bit of like upward feeling as you inhale and reach the leg, and then you let it all settle back down as you exhale. Not letting it get gripped, but just kind of this easy flow. Next time you have the leg up, we'll leave it there and take the hands away. Same idea in leg circles. Inhale over to the left, exhale around and back up. And 4 more. And then finding the reverse. It's making my circle smaller. When I think about all this, it's just ending up that my leg circle is a little smaller than it sometimes is. It's fine. Just real deep work. Probably my pelvic floor is making some adjustments because my jaw is making adjustments. Those two things are really connected. So then my circle is a little smaller. That seems pretty normal. And then resting the right leg down. Taking the left leg in, hold the back of the thigh. Inhale is an up, and exhale is a down. And then leave your leg where it is. Take your hands by your side. Try some leg circles. Over to the right, inhale, exhale around, back up to center. Playing with the breath in and out of the nose, if that works for you. And then reversing. One more of these. And then resting your left leg down. And let everything release. Get a little flat. And then bending your knees. Let's roll over onto your side and press yourself up to sitting. Okay, so we're going to work our way up to standing and play with a little bit of balance work and just see what that's like. So coming over onto your hands and feet, take a stretch up with your legs. Now, for a moment, back of the neck released, behind the ears released, jaw released, which is really interesting when you're upside down, right? You release your jaw and your teeth just float together. And even though it's not my jaw, I do notice my forehead releasing is sometimes helpful too. Like just let that relax. And then dropping your pelvis, all the sand is settling down into your pelvis, rolling up through your spine. And just notice what it's like to transition from your head totally upside down to looking at the floor to right side up. It's kind of interesting. And then setting up with your feet parallel and pointing forward. So balance, right? If we do anything with balance, hopefully things start well here, but it's like it travels up if things are a little off. Maybe my hips get tighter, my hips get tight, and it pulls my ribs forward, my ribs get tight, my neck, it always kinds of ends up in the neck, right? Like things we do this a lot, right? Oh, I'm losing my balance. It's totally natural. It's a fine thing to do. And if we're going to balance and release tension in the head, neck, and jaw, maybe that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It means in general, we kind of need to be really lined up, right? Or just be like very sort of loose about losing our balance. I don't know. We'll see. So, I mentioned head getting pulled forward. That's really common. We spend a long time getting flatter on the mat. So, what's it like when you open behind the ears? When you open at the base of the skull? When you drip the tension out of your cheeks and jaw and down through your chest? Where does that put you? It's not a position so much, but it's like a relationship between the head and the ribs, allowing the head to really center back over the ribs and not get pulled forward. And I do this a lot, right? I just loosen up. Just really simple. We're going to start bending your knees. We're going to shift your weight slightly over to your left foot, lift your right heel, and straighten your knee. And then as you do that, I could feel like, oh, my jaw actually wanted to stay over here. Let it all come into place. Bend and straighten. And just easy loose. And then if you're feeling pretty comfortable here, pretty steady on that foot, maybe you go up onto the toes on your right foot. What do you notice? And then maybe you come all the way off. Up to you. We'll hold some version of a balance for a couple breaths. Easy breath. And then down to both feet. Okay, so just like I was talking about in when we were doing the leg circles, right before the leg circles, maybe that sort of ease, like perfectly relaxed feeling, that's not necessarily constant the whole time while I'm balancing, right? Like might be little things that happen. Well, oh, this tightened up, this got a little, trying to adjust and adapt when things are a little off. But overall, I'm going to let things not get stuck in a grip, right? I'm just going to keep breathing and letting things go. So bending, shift to the right, Left heel up, straighten the leg. Here's the beginning of figuring out my plumb line to center over my right foot. And then when it feels comfortable, you might come up onto the tips of your toes. Just a little more being asked of the right standing side. And then if you want, all the way off and balancing here. And then down to both feet. Okay, so let's play a little bit with maybe moving some of that. So shifting my weight over onto my left foot again, finding a little bit of a balance. Reach the leg forward now. Still got the option to put your toe on the floor. In fact, let's all do it with the toe on the floor because it's really interesting to feel how the body adapts. So my leg's out in front of me, my jaw's relaxed, my head floats back just a little bit. As my leg moves to the side, it's a little different. The way my weight organizes is a little different. As I move to the back, a little different. Probably everything moves a little forward in my body. That's because of the way the back works, my hip and all that. And then back to the side, I don't want to leave everything forward in my chest and my head. I'll let it come back into place and then out in front of me again. Step to both feet. Take your toe on the floor with the other foot. Out to the side. As I go to the back, my pelvis moves just a little forward, which means my ribs and my head move just a little forward. And then as I go back to the side, I'm going to feel it all come back into line. And back to the front again. And down to both feet. So let's go back to the other leg. Toe on the ground or toe off the ground if you want. And down to both feet. And onto the other foot. Toe down or toe up. And stepping down to both feet. And finishing that. All right. So let's pass off the torch, as they say, and see where Scott takes us with all this.
Hi, everybody. So let's start off with a chair. You could sit on the floor. I'm just going to use this physio ball here. And so we're going to build upon the idea that Collette introduced. So she gave you all that great imagery of relaxing, a little bit of self-massage. And so now let's bring awareness to immediately right below your ears. And so almost like you had a pivot right there. Take your head forward and then back to where you started. So if you notice, I'm not moving my whole neck. This is really specifically at the very top of your neck. Forward and return. Now let's add the breath to it. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, back of your head up, nose down. Exhale, return to normal head alignment. 2 more like that. So the intention here is to move from the very uppermost segment of your neck, where a lot of people tend to hold stress and tension. So now your fingertips half an inch lower, just a little bit lower. And very lightly press your two fingertips in, get a sense of that place, imprint that place in your mind. Then release your hands, that place. Turn your head from that place. To your left, back in, to your right, back in. See if you can turn from that way up place where your fingertips were. Inhale to the left. Exhale to the front. Inhale to the right. Exhale to the front. One more each side. And back to the front. So that's to mobilize the highest two neck vertebrae, where so many people hold a lot of stress and tension. So now let's take those two movements and put them together. If you imagine an infinity sign, draw an infinity sign with your nose. Nice and gentle. Small movement. Smaller the better. Because a big movement probably comes from lower down in your neck. That's sometimes where the pain and stiffness is, but often the problem is higher up. And as you can probably hear, I'm continuing to breathe. And then if you haven't gone the other direction, making the little infinity sign the other direction. And then a few more here, practicing moving from the top of your neck, the base of your skull. Practicing releasing the top of your neck, the base of your skull. All right, and let those movements trail off. Now, whatever you're sitting upon, chair, physio ball, cushion, what have you, let's set it aside. We'll come back to it a little bit later on. Now let's come into a standing position. So sometimes when I'm standing in line, say at the market, and I notice that I'm feeling a little bit tense, I'll sometimes make that little infinity sign, but I do it so small that nobody can see me doing it. At least I hope. Otherwise, I might think I'm kind of strange. Oh, that's interesting. Did you feel your jaw relax when you started making those movements? That's the interconnection of neck and jaw, specifically the uppermost neck connection to jaw. All right, so let's let those movements, however small they may have been, let them trail off. And now let's do some whole body movement. So in a moment, we're going to take our arms overhead. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, fold. Exhale, gorilla. That's where the top of your head comes forward. And then step back with the inhale. Let's take a few breaths here, and then we can use gravity. Similar to like you did with Collette a little bit earlier in folding forward. Let your head hang. And let the weight of your head naturally release your neck. And then with the exhale, step your feet forward, back to gorilla. Inhale, fold. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms down. So you have vertebra, 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 vertebra. Then you have your skull. The very top two vertebrae in your neck are given a special name, the atlas and the axis. And the atlas and the axis, way up high, are where a lot of people hold their stress and tension. So we did the little bit of nodding yes, a little bit of turning your head no, and then we put them together with the infinity sign. So whichever of those techniques may have worked for you, or maybe you just have now this feeling of relaxing atlas and axis. So we'll take a few moments quietly to release your atlas and axis. Then to whatever extent you may or may not feel your atlas and axis relaxing, let's see if you can continue that ease as we make full body movement. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, folding. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, stepping back. We'll take a few breaths here. Now gravity can help us out with this endeavor. This exploration of releasing atlas and axis. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, fold. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms down. Now let's add some challenge to this. Step your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in and then your right foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So a lot of us, when we move, we have a habit of grabbing in the neck from the neck. And if we look really closely, observe, it often originates right at the base of the skull. So last couple movements here, release that junction of neck and skull. The next time your front knee in the bent position, let's pause there. Now with the next out breath, tip your hips. Bring your elbow to your knee. So now your torso is in a diagonal, isn't it? Same inquiry. Now to help tease apart some of the adhesions that tend to accumulate in the myofascial meridians, take your left arm up, and then toward the floor, turn your head and neck. And then come on up with an inhale. Turn back to the front. Release the junction of your skull and neck. Then the other side. Turn your right foot in and then your left foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So thankfully the human head rarely falls off the neck, which means that the tension that so many of us walk around with is superfluous. So let's do a few more movements here, practicing letting the movements originate from your lower body and exploring ease at the junction of neck and skull. The next time your knee in the bent position, let's pause there. Tip your hips. Take your upper arm up toward the floor. Turn your head and neck. And then with the inhale, come on up. Turn back to the front. And then step your feet together. You can probably see, now sometimes I'll be doing these kind of somatic practices. I'll just sort of randomly move my head around and explore that ease in how head meets neck. So it doesn't have to be real scripted movements like we did. That could just be a nice sort of entryway to this whole exploration. All right, so now let's make our way to the floor. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, folding. Exhale, gorilla. And inhale, step back. And as we have now a few times today, let's pause here and let the weight of your head facilitate the letting go at junction of neck and head. Now, sometimes what I'll do here with this positive influence of gravity is make those little micro movements with my head to further facilitate releasing atlas and axis. All right. So now let's work a little bit on core of the body. As you feel ready, coming forward to a straight arm plank. And holding this plank for a count of 5, 4, steady breathing, 3, 2, 1. Back to head down dog, releasing your head into the gentle embrace of gravity. And then back to straight arm plank. So this time in straight arm plank, a teeny tiny little bend of your elbows. Holding for a count of 5, 4, releasing atlas, 3, releasing axis, 2, 1, and back to head down dog. Few breaths here, releasing your head. And then coming down to your knees and into sitting. So let's start off with knees bent, feet flat upon the floor, sitting up. And then we'll take a few moments here quietly to use whatever techniques you find most effective to help you release highest segment, which is the atlas, and then next one down, the axis. Then take your left foot forward. Right foot can stay same side, or if it's cool with your hips, bring it up and over. Then we're going to do a trickle down twist. Start the twist from your head and then trickle it down segment by segment by segment. So all the neck vertebrae turn, then the upper back vertebra turn. And see if you can mobilize each of those many segments. Few breaths here. Back to the middle. Back to the reset position. Second side, take your right foot forward. Left foot can stay or cross over. Remember, you don't have to do the same thing on each leg. If it pinches in this hip, then this leg, leave it back where it was. Then we're going to do a trickle down twist to see if every segment can contribute just a little bit to twisting now to your left. A few more breaths here. And then back to the front. To hands and knees. And then back to head down dog. A couple breaths here. Straight arm plank for old time's sake. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to head down dog. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, fold. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms down. All right, so we're going to sit again. Could be a chair, cushion, physio ball, what have you. So last time we were here, introduced this concept of right where your skull and neck meet each other, atlas and axis. So in addition to those techniques, to release jaw, neck, and even to an extent your upper back, I've saved my favorite technique for last. Invite awareness to the roof of your mouth. You can run your tongue on it. Do you feel there's that ridge? Relax the roof of your mouth. I know at first that can sound crazy. Wait a minute, it's kind of bony. What does it mean to relax a bone? Can you relax a bone? The best you can, give it a shot. Relax the roof of your mouth. And many people report when they go to relax the roof of their mouth, it sometimes feels like the roof of the mouth broadens. Now, as you explore relaxing the roof of the mouth, what, if anything, did you feel in your atlas, in your axis? Now, let this awareness of the roof of your mouth extend to include your teeth, especially your back teeth, your molars. Remember the first time I heard this, I thought it sounded kind of crazy. But then I tried it, like I felt something. The best you can, relaxing the roof of your mouth, including your molars. And now let's revisit the trickle down twist, this time sitting just as you are. Starting with your head, the twist trickles down. Left hand comes across. Right hand behind. Steady breathing. And back in toward the middle. Trickle down twist now to the other side. Back in toward the middle. Hey, Ruthie. So Ruthie, well, I haven't heard her say it, but I think she endorses releasing atlas and axis because she seems to embody it. And she seems to embody relaxing the roof of her palate. All right. So now let's return to our feet. We'll do one more full body movement. So feet about hip width apart. Now let's flip the breathing around from what I typically do. Exhale, empty your lungs. And then with the inhale, take your arms up. Relax your palate as you look up. Then exhale, fold. Let the full weight of your head release into gravity. Palate stays broad. Inhale, gorilla. And then exhale, stepping back. We'll take a few breaths here in head down dog. Sorry, Ruthie, for doing dog pose in your presence. Then inhale to straight arm plank. Exhale, little elbow bend. Inhale, upward dog. We'll spend a few breaths here, relaxing your palate. Exhale, back to downward dog. A few breaths here. Inhale, gorilla. Exhale, fold. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, arms down. So we'll end here in standing. So Atlas held the weight of the world. Your highest neck vertebra is your atlas. Hold your head. The next one down is the axis because it primarily generates rotational movements. So like the axle of a wheel, relax your axis. And to facilitate releasing atlas and axis, come in through the roof of your mouth. Relax. Let that include your teeth. As strange I know as that can sound. Especially if you've had recent dental work, like maybe an extraction or a root canal or an implant, that quite often there's a tension that ends up getting lodged. And so these are techniques you can use to help release that tension and enjoy more freedom in your jaw, your neck, your upper back. All right. So thank you so much for your time and attention today. Any comments, questions in the chat? Kind of quiet in the chat today. So glad you could join us. Kind of a rainy, drizzly day here in Wisconsin. Hopefully it'll get a little bit clearer, a little bit warmer. Thank you so much.